The scent of betrayal wasn't in the air. It was in the soft hum of the printer beside me, spitting out the final version of our Gravora Group proposal, my proposal. I stood frozen, eyes glued to the screen of Miles's unlocked tablet, abandoned in the rush of his so-called urgent client call. This incompetent will finally embarrass herself. After this deal, I'm done with her. The message hit harder than a slap. Sent to V. Red Heart. The same contact who'd been lighting up his phone late at night, the one who always signed emails with a little too much warmth. Victoria. Not just his assistant. His co-conspirator. For 6 grueling months, I had worked on this proposal. Every chart, every insight, every nuance crafted by my hand. And now I stood there in the silence of our shared home office, reading text after text where they laughed at my dedication, my sleepless nights, my ignorance. Baby, you should see her scrambling around like this is her big moment. She had replied with laughing emojis. Can't wait to celebrate afterward. Just you and me running the show. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I clicked the power button, set the tablet down like it had burned me, and walked out into the night air to clear my head. The stars above Portland twinkled like they knew something I didn't. But I was catching up. I'm Joanna Ashcroft, co-founder of Redthorn Analytics, and for 8 years, I believed I was building a future with Miles, my business partner, my husband. The Gravora Group contract was supposed to launch us into the next stratosphere. Instead, it would blow the truth wide open. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the city from our balcony, wrapped in a blanket and a storm of thoughts. By sunrise, the old Joanna, the trusting wife, the loyal partner, was gone. In her place stood someone sharper. Colder. Ready. The morning of the presentation started normally. Miles strolled in freshly shaved, exuding confidence in his navy suit, the same one I bought him last year when we still exchanged anniversary gifts without malice hidden between the lines. Big day, he said cheerfully, his eyes already on his laptop. You feeling ready? I gave him a serene smile. More than ready. We both had our routines before a major meeting. He'd listened to some motivational podcast in his headphones. I'd run a final system diagnostic on our shared dashboard and review our synced files. Only this time, I added a new variable to the equation. I scheduled a silent update to our CRM tool, one that would log his access to client files and investor communications. I forwarded the Gravora Group presentation from our shared drive to my private cloud, then changed the permissions quietly. Only one person could edit it now. Me. At 9:45 a.m. He got up from his desk and said, I'm going to warm up some of the protein smoothies. Want yours? Miles loved his supplements. Ever since his health kick last year, he insisted we each drink a daily blend of his cognitive enhancer smoothies, some overpriced imported powder that supposedly sharpened mental focus. Normally, I humored him. Today, I saw the gesture for what it really was. A perfect opportunity. He disappeared into the kitchen, humming. I followed seconds later, pretending to grab more sticky notes. But instead, I reached into the cabinet above the fridge and swapped the smoothie bottles. Mine untouched. His, just a bit different. Just a harmless mix of valerian root and ginseng extract, known for fatigue and confusion in high doses. Nothing illegal. Nothing traceable. Just enough to make his mind feel like it was slogging through wet cement. By 10:30 a.m., we were live on the call. The Gravora team appeared on screen, including their CEO, Harrison Wells, and the investors Miles had been flattering for months. Miles opened confidently. Thank you all for joining us. Joanna and I have been working tirelessly on this strategy. We believe Redthorn Analytics can transform your operations. He started clicking through slides, but by the third one, his speech began to slow. Just slightly. A word missed. A pause too long. He blinked hard, as if recalibrating his vision. They noticed. I stepped in. If I may, I said with a calm smile. Miles has been pushing himself a little too hard lately. He's running on 4 hours of sleep. I'd be happy to walk us through the analytics section. What followed was an elegant takeover. I wove our findings into a compelling narrative. I could see their faces shift, concern fading, replaced by intrigue. My voice was steady, Miles's breathing labored. Every time he tried to interject, he stumbled. When he attempted to load the demo screen, he clicked the wrong file and opened his Spotify tab instead. Oops, he muttered, blinking again. Sorry, No worries, I said brightly, switching to share my screen. Let me pick it up from here. And, just like that, I was leading. The investors began addressing me directly. Harrison asked about our projected impact. I responded with clarity. Victoria's name, her smirking texts, none of it mattered right then. Because I was winning. And Miles? He was spiraling into incoherence. By the end of the call, Harrison leaned in and said, Ms. Ashcroft, your insights are exactly what we're looking for. We'll be in touch soon to discuss next steps. Not your team's. Not Red Thorn Analytics. Yours. As Miles sat dazed and sluggish beside me, I reached out to pat his shoulder. You did great, darling. Just rest now. He didn't even protest. Back in my office, I hit stop on the recorder app and uploaded the full meeting audio to my drive. Every glitch, every stammer, every moment of my rise and his fall preserved. Because the switch wasn't in the drinks. It was in the story. And now I was the one holding the pen. The moment the call ended, Miles slumped back into his chair like a marionette with its strings cut. His eyes were glassy, his suit jacket slightly askew, sweat glistening at his temple. I stood calmly beside him, closing my laptop and clicking the recorder app on my phone, stopping the audio file that captured the most pivotal moment in our company's history. I didn't speak. Not at first. Let him sit in it. Let him feel the unraveling. I don't. What just happened? He finally mumbled, blinking at the darkened monitor. I couldn't focus. It's like my head was full of fog. You probably just overdid it, I said softly, carefully folding a document for no reason other than to give my hands something to do. You've been so stressed lately. His eyes found mine. Did the meeting go okay? I let that silence linger just long enough to make him squirm. They loved the pitch, I said at last. Harrison even said my insights were exactly what they were looking for. He flinched, just a little. His ego, built like polished glass, was beginning to crack. You led the pitch, he asked, sitting up straighter, struggling to hide the panic rising behind his eyes. Well, you weren't feeling great, remember? I had to step in. But it's fine, I added quickly, almost comfortingly. We're still a team. That last line tasted like poison on my tongue. I left him at his desk and walked out of the room, pausing only to grab my phone and slip it into my back pocket. Upstairs, I closed the door to our bedroom and dialed the number I'd memorized years ago but never thought I'd use. Rebecca Hayes. It's Joanna, I said. We need to talk today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. A pause. Then, is this about what we discussed before? No. It's worse. And I have proof. At 4 p.m. I slid into a chair at Rebecca's downtown office, armed with my laptop, a USB drive, and a printed folder of Miles's messages with Victoria. My hands were steady. My mind was fire. Rebecca scanned the texts and leaned back, her eyes narrowing. Jesus, Joanna. He was planning to remove you from your own company. Not just remove me, I said coolly. Discredit me. Use the Gravora pitch as a public failure to justify pushing me out. He and Victoria had it all lined up. Rebecca opened the audio file next. Her expression shifted as she listened to Miles stutter, derail, and slowly collapse on live camera. Let me guess, she said, pausing the recording. He made the smoothies this morning? I nodded. But I switched them before he handed them to me. Rebecca blinked. Joanna, that's brilliant. He used valerian root and something else, I said. Nothing toxic, just enough to cause confusion and sluggishness in higher doses. I've had a toxicologist friend confirm it. I'll get an affidavit. Rebecca looked impressed. You've been playing chess while he thought you were playing checkers. He never realized I knew the rules. We outlined a legal plan. File for divorce immediately, petition for full ownership of Red Thorn Analytics, and submit the audio and text evidence to preempt any countersuit. Miles might still think he had time to control the narrative. But by morning, the story would already be out of his hands. When I returned home that evening, Miles was in the kitchen, staring into the refrigerator like he expected it to explain his failure. "Dinner," I offered brightly. He looked over his shoulder, his voice low. "Joanna, do you think Gravora will still sign with us?" I smiled sweetly. "I think they're very excited to work with us." He sighed in relief. "Good. We're so close. After this, everything will change. We'll finally be where we're meant to be." That was the moment I knew he still thought he had control. That the Gravora contract would be his safety net. That I'd forgive him, or forget what I'd seen, just because we were about to win big. But what he didn't realize was that I had become the net, and I had already cut the strings. After dinner, I returned to my office, logged into our financial software, and began downloading everything: ledgers, vendor contracts, client agreements. I flagged every document that proved I had done the majority of the strategic work for the company. Then I sent a message to our accountant. "Need itemized breakdown of founder contributions. Urgent. Please call me first thing tomorrow." By 11 p.m., Miles was passed out in bed. I watched him for a moment. His breathing was deep and steady. He looked peaceful. Ironic. I returned to my desk and opened Harrison's follow-up email. "Joanna, thank you for your incredible presentation today. It's clear you bring both strategic vision and execution power to the table. I'd like to schedule a call tomorrow to discuss next steps. I believe you are exactly what Gravora Group needs. You, not we, not Red Thorn. Just me." And in that moment, I made my final decision. The Gravora deal would go forward, but not with Miles and Joanna. Just Joanna Ashcroft. The next morning, I didn't wake Miles. I left the house before sunrise, with one bag in the trunk and everything else tucked safely in cloud storage. At 7:45 a.m., I walked into our downtown office space, my heels clicking like a countdown. I had a standing meeting with the team at 8 a.m. They greeted me with sleepy smiles and coffee. I responded with a crisp voice and a clear message. There are going to be some changes. At exactly 8 a.m., I stepped into the conference room of our downtown office, the space bathed in cool morning light. My team, 3 analysts and 1 operations manager, sat in their usual seats, each with steaming coffee and curious eyes. They could feel it. A shift. Something big was coming. "Morning, everyone," I said with a calm, composed voice. "Today, we reset the future of Red Thorn Analytics. There are some developments you should hear directly from me." Their posture shifted. Attention sharpened. I tapped my tablet and brought up the Gravora Group deck, flipping to a slide none of them had seen before. The screen displayed a new logo, a variation of our brand, sleeker, bolder. Red Thorn Strategic. Effective immediately, I said, "We are restructuring. This is now our operating entity. You'll receive updated contracts by end of day, along with revised role definitions. Salaries are being adjusted accordingly." My team blinked. No one spoke. Some of you may be wondering where Miles is. I let that hang for a beat. He's taking a leave of absence. Indefinitely. Chairs shifted. Eyes widened. "Why?" our operations manager, Kendra, asked carefully. I considered my words. I wasn't ready to spill the entire truth, not yet. But I needed to plant the seeds. Let's just say, his priorities haven't aligned with Red Thorn's for a long time. I've chosen to step into full leadership, and Gravora Group has requested I personally lead the implementation if they move forward. They didn't cheer. They didn't question. But the room buzzed with silent approval. They knew. They'd seen who stayed late, who got the results. And they had long suspected that the face of Red Thorn wasn't the one steering the ship. When the meeting ended, Kendra lingered behind. "Joanna," she said cautiously, "do you need help covering any of this up? Because if there's a bigger story here, I've got your back." I studied her face, loyal, honest, sharp. "No cover-ups," I said. "But when the truth comes out, I'll remember who stood by me." At 10:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. A blocked number. I stepped into my private office and took the call. "Joanna Ashcroft?" "Yes. This is Margot Fielding from Gravora Group Legal. Mr. Wells asked me to reach out and schedule a private discussion about your terms of engagement." My pulse quickened. Of course, I said, steady. When works for him? He's available at noon today. We'll loop in our VP of Strategic Partnerships and move forward under the assumption that your proposal, as presented, is the version we're engaging with. Understood. Is Mr. Harwood expected to join? I smiled without smiling. No. He's no longer part of the strategic team. I'll represent Redthorn moving forward. Good to know. We'll see you at noon. The call ended. I stood by the window, watching the light of morning reflect against the city's glass skyline. The truth was becoming undeniable. Miles had been erased by his own hand. I returned home at 11 a.m., giving myself time before the Gravora call. Miles was at the kitchen table, disheveled, hunched over a cup of tea. His laptop was closed. His phone sat dark. He looked up when I walked in. "Joe," he said, voice rough. "We need to talk." I placed my bag on the counter and gave him a practice look. About what? He rubbed his face. About everything. I don't know what happened yesterday. I felt like I was dying. I couldn't think. I couldn't speak. And then, you just took over. I leaned against the kitchen island, arms folded. And? He hesitated. They liked you more. Didn't they? I didn't answer. I read Harrison's email on the shared inbox, he admitted, shame creeping into his voice. He wants you. Not us. Correct. He flinched. So what happens now? That depends, I said, walking toward him slowly. Are you prepared to admit what you did? His face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Wrong answer. I opened my phone, tapped a file, and set it on the table. Audio played. Miles's voice, barely coherent. The moment he said, "I felt fine this morning," then suddenly I could barely think. Next, I slid a printed copy of the messages he sent to Victoria. Highlighted, timestamped, archived. I know what you did, I said. I know about Victoria. I know about the plan to push me out. I know about the investor conversations where you called me decorative. And I know about the supplement cocktail you were hoping I'd drink. His mouth parted. I didn't, Joanna, I didn't drug you. You tried to. You failed. He slumped in his chair, speechless. I've already met with my lawyer. The divorce is in motion. All the documentation is filed. I've taken control of the business. Your shares are being reviewed for misconduct. You can't do that. I can. And I have. He stared at the table like it held the secrets to his crumbling world. So this is it? I stepped back, picked up my phone, and headed to the door. No, Miles. This is just the beginning. At noon sharp, I logged into the Gravora call. This time, it was just Harrison, Margot, and myself. Joanna, Harrison said warmly, I want to thank you again for your clarity and professionalism. We've reviewed your projections and spoken to your references. We're ready to extend a formal engagement. My breath caught for half a second. Then I exhaled. That's wonderful news. I'm ready to begin immediately. Excellent. We'll send the first draft of the contract today. Margot will walk you through the finer points. I'll have my counsel review it as well. Full transparency on both sides. They nodded approvingly. Before ending the call, Harrison added, one more thing, Joanna. You should know, several people on the investor call commented on your handling of an unexpected situation. They were impressed by your poise under pressure. I smiled, just a little. It's amazing what you can do when you're underestimated. 2 days after signing the preliminary Gravora contract, I stood in front of a full conference room, presenting Redthorn Strategic's revised launch roadmap. Every seat was filled. The energy in the room buzzed, not with tension, but anticipation. I had become the pulse of this company. Our firm had never looked sharper. Fresh branding. A unified mission. Expanded roles, improved salaries. Word was already spreading through Portland's tight consulting circuit. Redthorn wasn't just surviving. It was reborn. And Miles Harwood? He was nowhere to be found. After our confrontation, he disappeared from the office. Rumors swirled, but I said little. I didn't need to destroy his reputation. I just had to stop protecting it. That afternoon, I received an email from Victoria. Subject, we need to talk. Message, Joanna, I don't know what Miles told you, but things have gotten out of hand. I've been suspended pending investigation. My licensing board wants to speak with me. Please. Can we talk before this gets worse? I stared at the screen. Victoria had always thought she was the smartest person in the room. The clever seductress. The hidden partner. But now the walls were closing in, and she was grasping at the only branch she hadn't already set on fire. I considered responding. Then I archived the email. There was nothing left to say. The real reckoning came a week later. I was at a Gravora Group follow-up in Seattle when my attorney, Rebecca, called. "Joanna," she said, voice crisp. "The court accepted the emergency petition. The judge signed off on the freeze." "Already?" I asked, surprised. "We moved fast. You provided overwhelming documentation of strategic ownership, financial control, and, let's not forget, attempted professional sabotage. Miles won't be accessing any business funds unless we approve it." I walked to the window of my hotel suite, overlooking the skyline. A surreal calm settled over me. Everything I'd built, protected, and almost lost was now locked safely in my name. Did he respond? I asked. Oh, he responded all right. Through his lawyer. He's contesting the freeze, claiming he was drugged. By me? Yes. But here's the problem. He can't prove it. And that audio you captured? It helps us. Not him. He literally says he felt fine before the meeting. I closed my eyes. Then let's move to finalize the divorce. I want this over. By Friday, the consulting world had caught wind of the shift. Redthorn Strategic was now the official name. Gravora had gone public with our partnership. Miles was no longer listed on the company's executive page. Then came the bombshell, a leaked copy of a complaint filed with the Oregon Business Ethics Board. Anonymous, but specific. Alleging misconduct, manipulation, and professional endangerment. I hadn't leaked it, but someone had. Kendra approached me the next morning in my office. "Just so you know," she said, "no one believes he built this place." "Not anymore." "I'm not interested in vengeance," I replied. "Good," she said with a shrug. "Then enjoy watching karma do its job." That weekend, I drove to Cannon Beach alone. Just me, the ocean, and the crash of waves that had always made me feel human again. I walked the shoreline in a hoodie and jeans, the wind unraveling every knot in my chest. Miles had underestimated me. He thought the Gravora deal was his crowning moment. He never imagined it would be his undoing. And Victoria? She'd thought loyalty to a man like him was currency. She didn't understand it was a receipt. Proof of poor investment. As I watched the waves roll in, I remembered a conversation we'd once had, years ago, back when Redthorn was just a dream. "We're going to change the game," he'd told me, eyes lit with ambition. He was half right. We did change the game. But in the end, he tried to cheat the rules. And I rewrote the playbook. 6 months later, I stood on the top floor of the newly renovated Redthorn Strategic Headquarters, a glass-wrapped space that overlooked the beating heart of downtown Portland. The city pulsed with life below, but up here, I was above the noise. Alone. Empowered. I held in my hands the final quarterly report from our Gravora Group engagement. My team's analysis had been spot on. We'd helped Gravora increase efficiency by 22%, streamline operations across 7 departments, and reclaim over $3.8 million in wasted overhead. Results that didn't just impress. They reshaped industries. Clients came pouring in. Within 5 months, Redthorn signed 2 more national contracts and hired 6 new staff members. I'd promoted Kendra to senior operations lead. We were expanding into Denver and Seattle. Every morning, I walked into my building greeted by a team who respected not just my title, but my leadership. And yet, as I stared at the report, my thoughts drifted back to that final night. After the court ruling, Miles had requested a meeting. One last conversation. I agreed. Out of curiosity, not mercy. We met at a quiet cafe on Burnside. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. The shine was gone. His clothes hung a little looser. He wore guilt like a second skin. "I just wanted to understand," he said, barely able to meet my eyes. "Why did you do it?" I leaned forward, calm as ever. "Do what? Outsmart you? Or survive you?" He looked away. You were supposed to be the quiet one. The steady one. I was the steady one, I said. Until you tried to poison the engine that powered this company. That powered you. I thought you needed me, he said, voice low. I did, I replied honestly. Until I didn't. He nodded slowly, defeated. You won. No, I corrected him. I didn't win. I just took back what was already mine. That was the last time I saw him. Victoria had her license suspended pending a full ethics review. She moved out of Portland 2 months later, according to LinkedIn. A mutual contact told me she's working in a minor marketing role somewhere in Arizona. I never celebrated publicly. No social media posts. No passive-aggressive victory laps. The only win I needed was the one I could see in my work, in my team, in the growth, in the way the Gravora execs now looped me in as a strategic advisor. But I did take one small moment. On the 6th-month anniversary of the Gravora pitch, I returned to the same kitchen where it all began. The scene of the crime. The original battleground. I made 2 smoothies. Same mugs. Same ingredients. But this time, there was no switch. I raised one glass in silent salute and whispered to the empty room. To the cup he thought would break me. And then I drank it. Sometimes people ask me how I did it. How I stayed so composed. How I turned the game around. How I went from almost erased to fully empowered. The truth? I didn't do it alone. I did it with clarity. With evidence. With patience. With every sleepless night I spent perfecting slides, building strategy, and second-guessing my own brilliance while someone else took credit. I didn't destroy Miles. I simply let him trip on the path he paved for me. That's the beauty of real revenge. You don't have to scream or burn everything down. You just walk forward while they fall behind. And as the city stretched out before me that morning, my company stronger than ever, I smiled. I wasn't rebuilding. I was rising.